The viewing portal was a masterpiece of crystal and light, offering a panorama of the approaching vessel that did nothing to calm the princess's racing hearts. It was a human ship, a blocky, angular thing of gray alloy and blunt purpose, trailing none of the graceful energy signatures of the galactic courts. It looked less like a diplomatic transport and more like a warship that had politely, and perhaps insincerely, agreed to temporarily holster its guns. It is a necessary alliance, her father, the Emperor of the Celestial Verdants, said from his throne seat. His voice, usually a source of deep comfort, now felt like the ceiling of a tomb. Their strength is unparalleled. Their expansion is inevitable. To align with them is to secure our people's future for 1,000 generations. The princess turned, her diaphanous robes swirling in the low gravity. To align, yes. But to bind me to one of them? Father, their histories are lit by the flames of conquered worlds. They do not negotiate ecosystems. They terraform. They do not parley with dissent. They pacify. Their ambassadors are soldiers first. You are handing me to a warlord. His title is strategic liaison, the Emperor corrected, but the weariness in his bioluminescent markings betrayed his own doubts. The human delegation was most insistent. A marriage solidifies the treaty beyond words. Which one? She whispered, the dread a cold weight in her secondary stomach. The Emperor gestured, and a hologram shimmered to life between them. It showed a human male, clad in a formal, dark uniform devoid of any elegant adornment. He stood with a posture that suggested a structural support beam, rigid and unyielding. His face was all hard planes and stern angles, his eyes the color of a steel hull. Scars, not the graceful patterns of ritual combat, but the chaotic tears of brutal conflict, marked his brow and jaw. He did not smile. He looked like he was assessing the tactical viability of the photographer. This is the appointed liaison. Her father said. The princess felt her primary heart stutter. No, father. Not that human. I have seen his profile. His military record is a list of battles with casualty reports that would darken a supernova. He commanded the siege of Garen's Drift. He enforced the Stability Accord on the Cathari moons. He is not a diplomat. He is a conqueror. I will be a trophy in his arsenal. You will be an empress, the Emperor said, his voice finally gaining an edge of imperial command. You will be the bridge that turns their ruthlessness into our shield. The ceremony commences upon his disembarkation. Prepare yourself. The audience chamber was a garden of whispering fronds and soft, glowing orbs, a place of serene beauty that now felt like a stage for execution. The courtiers, a kaleidoscope of delicate forms and gentle hues, murmured anxiously as the great doors hissed open. He entered not with a procession, but with a squad. 6 humans in polished armor flanked him, their movements synchronized to a chilling degree of precision. And he, the liaison, walked among them like their hardened core. His footsteps, heavy and resonant on the iridescent floor, were a foreign drumbeat in the tranquil space. He stopped before the dais, offering a bow that was mathematically correct yet utterly devoid of grace or reverence. Your Majesty. His voice was a low rumble, devoid of the harmonic undertones of her people's speech. I am honored. The princess, standing beside her father's throne, felt frozen. Up close, he was even more intimidating. The scars were more detailed, the set of his jaw more grim. His eyes scanned the room, not with wonder, but with a flat, analytical gaze that seemed to catalog exits, defensive positions, and potential threats. They settled on her, and she felt like a specimen under a scanner. The ceremony was a blur of alien rituals and painful formalities. She recited her vows in a numb voice, feeling the weight of her people's hope and her own despair like twin chains. He spoke his vows with the same tone one might use to recite a systems check. When the time came to bind their hands with the silken cord of unity, his hand engulfed hers. His skin was surprisingly warm, but the grip was firm, unreadable. Like holding a powered-down tool, the feast was an agony. He sat beside her, a monolith of silence amidst the delicate music. He did not touch the artfully prepared nectar gels or shimmering wines. He consumed a dense nutrient bar from his own kit, drinking plain water. He did not speak to her. He occasionally received low-voiced reports from his aides, his responses terse. "Do you find our world lacking?" She finally ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. He turned that unsettling gaze on her. "It is optimally functional for your biological needs." She flinched. "It is beautiful." "Aesthetic assessment is secondary to environmental stability," he stated. "Your atmospheric processors are inefficient. My engineers can increase their output by 70%. This was her future. Discussions of processor output. She was wed to a machine of war and efficiency. The disaster struck during the traditional aerial dance. Dozens of her people, using anti-grav harnesses, were weaving intricate patterns in the vaulted chamber when a support beam, stressed by faulty ancient circuitry, cracked with a sound like thunder. It sheared free, a massive spear of crystal and metal, tumbling directly towards a cluster of dancers, too disoriented to flee. A scream began to tear from the princess's throat, but it died before it was born. The human moved Dot. It was not the slow, deliberate movement she had seen. It was an explosion of controlled violence. He was a projectile launched from his chair. He did not cry out. He simply acted, shoving the princess behind the solid table with a force that was careful yet undeniable. He sprinted forward. His guards, reacting a split second later, fanned out, not towards the falling debris, but to cordon off the area, shouting clear. Sharp commands in their own tongue that somehow cut through the panicked Dot. He did not try to catch the beam. That would have been impossible. Instead, he grabbed a fallen ceremonial pillar, a solid length of polished stone, and with a grunt of effort that seemed to come from the very earth, he jammed it into the path of the falling beam at a precise angle. The collision was deafening. Stone shattered, but the beam's trajectory was altered just enough. It crashed to the floor, a hair's breadth from the huddled dancers, showering them with harmless dust instead of crushing them. Silence, thick and stunned, descended. Then the human was among the dancers, his harsh voice now issuing surprisingly gentle, clipped orders. "Do not move. Check for spinal injury first." He carefully stabilized the dancer with a potentially broken wing strut, his large hands unexpectedly deft. He directed his guards, who now produced compact medkits, their efficiency surgical. He stood, coated in dust and stone fragments, and looked to the princess's father. "The structural integrity of this hall is compromised. Recommend immediate evacuation and a full scan of the primary supports. My team can assist." Later, in the suddenly quiet antechamber, the princess approached him. He was having a shallow cut on his forearm sealed by one of his medics. He dismissed the medic with a nod. "You saved them," she said, her voice trembling. "It was a tactical hazard. Neutralizing it was required." She studied his face, the stern lines, the scars that spoke of a lifetime in such hazardous zones. "You did not hesitate. You did not even seem afraid." For the first time, she saw a flicker of something in his steel-colored eyes. Not emotion, but perhaps a shift in calculation. Fear is a physiological response to perceived threat. It must be acknowledged and bypassed for optimal action. "My training ensures this, and your marriage to me?" The question escaped her, bold and raw. "Is that a tactical hazard to be neutralized?" He regarded her for a long, silent moment. He finished fastening his uniform sleeve. "I am a soldier," he said, the rumble of his voice softer now. "My life has been a series of objectives, Secure, protect, defend. This alliance is the most important objective of my career. It is not a poem. It is a strategic reality. He paused, choosing his words with the same care he chose his actions. But today, the objective was to protect life in this chamber. That included you. It included them. That is the core of the duty I swore. The ruthlessness you fear. Its purpose is to create a space where aerial dances can safely occur. Even if, he added, with what might have been the ghost of something other than sternness, I do not understand the tactical purpose of the dance itself. He gave her another of those exact bows. With your permission, I must oversee the structural scans. Your safety is now part of my operational parameters. As he walked away, back straight, a commander returning to his duty, the princess felt the cold dread in her stomach begin to thaw, replaced by a whirlwind of confusion. He was still an alien, a creature of terrifying efficiency and brutal history. He might never compose a sonnet to her beauty or weep at a symphony, but he had, without a second thought, placed a stone pillar between death and her people. He had called her safety an operational parameter. In the harsh, uncompromising grammar of his being, that might be the only poem he knew how to write. She looked out the viewing portal again. The gray human warship hung against the stars, no less blunt, no less intimidating. But perhaps, she thought, not all shields are polished and beautiful. Some are scarred, gray, and utterly unyielding. And for the first time since hearing her fate, she felt not terror, but a fragile, burgeoning curiosity. The bridge between their worlds would not be built with silken cords. It would be forged from stone, and